Brandon, I imagine you are getting into the holiday spirit and you are a connoisseur of movies. If I'm looking for a good holiday film recommendation, uh, give me your top three best holiday films of all time.
Ooh, top three is such a short list. I feel like I could name off a ton of honorable mentions first, which I'm just going to do like quick trigger style. It's a Wonderful Life should be on here, but it's not. Scrooged, Muppet Christmas Carol, this new movie a few years ago, which I think is great and underrated called Spirited. It's on Apple TV with Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell. It's hilarious. But my top three absolute favorites, number three, Elf, the greatest modern classic. Number two, A Christmas Story. And number one, Home Alone. No movie gets me in the Christmas mood like Home Alone. I think it's the best mix of comedy, feel good, and Christmas spirit, and like Christmas soundtrack.
I like those recommendations. I really like the reference to Home Alone. Now that my kids are a little bit older, I forced them to watch Home Alone last Christmas, and you know what? They didn't like it.
What?
I don't know if it's because it didn't age well or something in their mind, but they were like, I don't get it.
How? How is that
I think I need new kids. I think I need new kids. The physical humor in this show ages perfectly fine. And that's, one of the big gimmicks in the movie. So I'm disappointed in my kids.
Oh man, I am shocked. My kids have watched it. They really, really like it. I think it holds up. Like, I still laugh. Like, this came out in 1990. This is a 35-year-old movie now, which is obviously aging me, but I still laugh. I've seen it probably 50 times and I still laugh when I watch it, especially like when the spider is on his face and that scream. I don't know, that gets me. That something about that scream gets me every time.
Welcome back to the Daily Thunder podcast. I'm John Napier, publisher of Daily Thunder, and I'll be your host today. Alongside me is Daily Thunder beat writer Brandon Rahbar. Brandon, how are you today?
I am doing well, but not as well as the Oklahoma City Thunder, who are riding a 13-game win streak.
Yeah, and you had to stay up super late in order to watch the outcome of that game. It was a late one for me. I like to go to bed 10:30, 11 o'clock, and so a 10 p.m. start time, which really means a 10:15 tip. Oh, I do not know what the schedule makers were thinking, because old people like me, not like you, that's late.
It's incredibly late for a team that's in the central time zone. And, there's a lot of people, like 10 o'clock is bedtime. I would say that's like probably the most average bedtime for people in Oklahoma, right? Like if you were to poll 1,000 Oklahomans and said, what's your bedtime? I'd say the most common answer would probably be around 10 o'clock. And that's when this game, like you said, tipped off. Thankfully, it's the last late tip, that late at least, of the season. So no more of those. We've had two of those. It's this NBC Peacock national TV game, which, you love that the Thunder are getting, the national TV glow up. But one of the small bummers about that is sometimes you get these funky tip-off times.
Yeah, and I guess it was worth staying up for when I started to doze off. The Thunder had built a 19-point halftime lead. It looked like they were going to dominate the Warriors yet again. The Warriors were, of course, without Steph Curry, and then they missed Jimmy Butler in the second half. But I guess the Warriors came storming back. So let's start there. We'll go in reverse order, recapping the last week's games. What happened in that third quarter? Tell the story like it was somebody who fell asleep at halftime. What went wrong?
Yeah. No, I think this is probably a pretty common thing, John. I bet you there was a lot of Thunder fans who are like, okay, going to pound some coffee around 9:30. I'm going to stay up and watch this game, and hopefully the Thunder get off to a big lead, and I can go to bed at halftime. And it looked exactly that way because they were up, like you said, 19 points at halftime, and it looked like it was safe for Thunder fans to go to sleep. And then in the third quarter, somehow, some way, the Warriors scored 44 points. And like you said, Steph Curry wasn't playing. Now, obviously, Lou Dort, Alex Caruso, and Isaiah Hartenstein were not playing for the Thunder. That's a lot of defense to be missing. But still, Jimmy Butler goes out. I wouldn't say that they were missing him because they actually played a lot better. They just hit three after three after three. Like their bench went off. Gary Payton Jr. or Gary Payton II. Pat Spencer went off. I mean, these guys just could not miss from three. There was, let me put it this way. Draymond hit 3 threes in the second half. There was a bank three in the second half from the Warriors. And then Pods hit a full sprint, one leg running three, one-handed at the third quarter buzzer. So, I mean, like that right there, that's like 15 points. It looked like one of those games where, home crowd, they had all the momentum, and you just kind of wonder, is it going to be like that Portland game? It was definitely shades of that Trailblazers game, the one loss the Thunder had, where it was a road game. Thunder were up comfortably. We're up 22 points at one point. And then second half, they just make a ton of shots. The Thunder let off the gas a little bit. But Shai wasn't having that at all. And I guess we could talk about that next if you wanted to. But Shai was incredible when he checked back in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and about when Shai checked back in, the Warriors had actually taken the lead in the fourth quarter and led by 4 points about midway through the fourth quarter. And yeah, Shai was not going to let the Thunder lose one on the road against a shorthanded Warriors team. I think he wanted to keep that winning streak alive. Was it just Shai? It looked like there were contributions from Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren as well in that fourth quarter.
Yeah, this was a great game from the big three. I think this was J-Dub's best game since he's been back. He's looking more and more comfortable. He's looking more and more like himself every single game. I think every consecutive game he's been better. And last night for sure was his best game. He had 22 points on 9 of 16 shooting, 6 assists, and of course, great defense. Chet, 21 points, 8 of 12 from the field, 2 of 3 from three. And then Shai, 38 points, 13 of 21 from the field. And get this, 5 of 6 from three from Shai. He's shooting 43.4% from three on the season. Just incredible. But yeah, in that fourth quarter, like you said, the Warriors went on that run. They actually end up taking a 4-point lead. Shai checks back in, and it was a combination. Chet hit a three. AJ Mitchell had a nice offensive rebound and a bucket. Shai scored 7 points in the final 4.5 minutes. Isaiah Joe hit a three. Shai in these step back threes just all night. J-Dub hit a couple of shots. Cason Wallace hit a bucket. So it was a full team contribution, but it was very clear when Shai checked back in that he was not going to let the team lose. He was going to will them to a win. And it was a combination of his scoring, his gravity, his playmaking, and then I think the other two guys of the big three contributing as well. It was a really fun watch for a game that looked like a blowout in the beginning. So the Thunder fans that did stay up all night had their money's worth last night. They made it a show.
And I'm going to share a stat about Shai because you talked about the way he closed this one out. In the last 4 games, his stats in the fourth quarter, he's averaging 11 points a game on 80, 75, 94 splits.
That is absurd. You need to text that to me so I can tweet that out. That is unbelievable. He's only, I'll give you credit. He has only played.
Well, I stole from somebody else, but go ahead.
Okay. I'll give that person credit then. It'll be like that Michael Scott, Wayne Gretzky quote. That's all
yeah.
I'll tag it. I think that Shai only playing half of the fourth quarter so far should be the runaway winner in clutch player of the year. Shut it down. You only play half of the fourth quarters, and he is by far ahead of the crowd as far as clutch scoring goes. And like you said, his shooting, his splits have been unbelievable. It's just any of these tight games, Shai just comes in and just wins it. He just wills them to a win if there's a tight game. Shai is either going to sit the fourth quarter or he's going to score every single point that you need in the fourth quarter to win.
And that's the difference maker for the Thunder in closing some of these games out. Because if we go back to the Portland game and the Phoenix game and the Minnesota game that were all close wins for the Thunder. The difference really was the Thunder had a go-to scorer. They were reliably able to execute in the clutch time with a player like Shai. So let's start with Portland. It was another battle in Portland. A little bit worried that maybe the Blazers caught lightning in a bottle again, but the Thunder were able to pull that one out. What were your thoughts from that game, Brandon?
Yeah, my thoughts were kind of like that first Portland game in Portland. This Blazers team just fights and scraps, plays hard, especially at home against the Thunder. I never really had too much concern that the Thunder were going to lose this one. I felt pretty good about them actually winning it. And of course, the Thunder, as far as like the first quarter, they come out, they're up 5 at the end of the first quarter, but then the Trailblazers throw a punch back and they're actually leading at halftime. They're leading after the third quarter, but the Thunder take care of business in the fourth quarter. Again, a bunch of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. This one was kind of like suspenseful because Shai only had 16 points, with a few minutes left to go. And then he just hits bucket after bucket, ends up with 26 points. Again, clutched it up in clutch time, to seal the win. But I'm impressed with the Trailblazers. I think that they'll be a play-in team, especially with everything that's going on at the bottom of the Western Conference, if they want to be. They're not even fully healthy right now. Like, they don't have Drew Holiday. They've been missing guys in and out, especially their guards. They just play hard. And credit to them. The Thunder had beat them, 80 times in a row or something like that coming into that first game in Portland. And the Blazers give the Thunder their only loss through 22 games. Of course, the Thunder, kind of dominate at home when they play the Blazers. But again, another close game in Portland. So a tip of the hat to Portland.
Yeah, and they are sitting right now within the play-in. One other stat that I think was mind-blowing for everybody from that Portland game was Denny Avita shooting 23 free throws. He had a great night, triple-double, but 23 free throws. That's mind-blowing.
That is mind-blowing. That turned into a free throw contest at the end of the third quarter, just back and forth. I think I may be misremembering, but I believe that in the final 2 minutes of the third quarter, the Blazers shot 8 free throws and the Thunder shot 6 free throws. By the way, SGA didn't shoot any. And by the way, Denny Avita in the 2 games in Portland has shot 39 free throws. Shai shot 25 free throws, and Denny has shot 39 in those 2 games in Portland.
Yeah, free throw merchant Denny Avita, just like we always thought. Well, then let's go one step back to the win against the Phoenix Suns, a close 123-119 win. Phoenix is a scrappy team and better than expected, and they are a likely play-in team.
Yeah, the Suns are the team that I misjudged by far the most coming into this season. I thought they were so bad last year, and then they lose, for what it's worth, Bradley Beal, but then Kevin Durant, and then they add Jalen Green, who's been an inefficient volume scorer, and Jalen Green's been out all year long pretty much, and yet here they are. They are firmly looking like a playoff team in the West right now, even with, players down Jalen Green. Grayson Allen's missed a lot of games. It just seems like their culture has shifted, and, maybe some of that is due to Dylan Brooks. He's been playing really well, kind of bringing an edge and an attitude to the team. Devin Booker kind of looks rejuvenated. But yeah, they gave the Thunder a real game. I think Thunder fans, there's kind of this sentiment going around Thunder games have become boring. They're just blowing everybody out. Shai doesn't play any fourth quarter as well. Be careful what you ask for, because these last few games have been really, really close, tight, exciting games that the Thunder have won. But yeah, that was a fun game, and we're going to see a rematch in the NBA Cup quarterfinal. That game actually clinched Group 1 West for the Thunder. Whoever won that game was going to win that group, but the Suns make it in as a wild card, so we'll see a rematch here in a week or so.
Yeah, and the Thunder were able to also secure the top overall seed in the NBA Cup. Now, this game also had a couple of other elements to it. It was typical Shai fourth quarter magic against the Suns. He scored about 15 points in the final 6-ish minutes of the game, which just an unbelievable stat. But as we talked about, the Thunder have that weapon that basically no other team has, where when they need points in the clutch, they have Shai, who will almost always deliver on that. And then the Thunder also welcomed back Jalen Williams, who had a rough shooting night, but made an immediate impact as a distributor. He had 8 assists in 29 minutes. What did you like about Jalen Williams in his season debut?
Yeah, that's exactly right. The first thing I liked was the crowd reception to J-Dub. It was loud in player intros. Like, it's the first time I've seen where a player other than SGA had the loudest intro. Fans were very, very excited to get J-Dub back. But yeah, I think you nailed it. It was his playmaking. Like, he was definitely in pass mode, and he said as much in the post game that he was just focused in on getting the ball to the guys who have been playing, and he did that. I also thought his defense was really, really good. Like, it looked like mid-season All-NBA defense team J-Dub from the jump, which was very encouraging. And he said as much in the post game. Offensively, he's got to get his rhythm back. He's got to shake off the rust. He hasn't played since Game 7 of the NBA Finals, and, he's recovering from this wrist injury and kind of reworking his shot all over again. So he's going to find his rhythm. He's looked better every game since then. So, yeah, his shooting wasn't, typical Jalen Williams first game out, but the passing and the defense were top-notch.
And then the first game of the week last Wednesday was against the Timberwolves. The Thunder pulled a tough one out, 113-105 against a motivated Timberwolves team. But Shai came into that game with a questionable tag. He was a little bit under the weather, but the MVP had a flu game, I'd say. He was incredible. Scored 40, 12 of 19 from the field. He went 15 of 17 from the free throw line and added 6 rebounds and 6 assists. Shai was great. This is like the Shai show. We keep talking about how good he is, but he is consistently good every game, especially when the Thunder need him.
Yeah, you would think that the NBA would have rewarded him with Player of the Month for October, November, considering that he has consistently been nominated every single week, and the winner has only been nominated every half those weeks. Yeah, Shai has been just phenomenal. Somehow, the player who won regular season MVP, Western Conference MVP, Finals MVP, the scoring title, and had the best guard season since either Steph Curry or Michael Jordan, somehow has gotten better. Like, the two areas you could look at and be like, this is nitpicking, but if Shai got better at these two things, he would go from, arguably the best player in the game right now to, I would say, the best player in the game right now. And that would be 3-point shooting and playmaking. And he is better, hands down, in those two areas this season. And yeah, there needs to be a study done on like the greats of the game and how they play when they're sick. Because it seems like whenever like a great player is questionable with an illness going into a game, and this goes back to Michael Jordan, they just like show out. It's like once he was tagged as questionable with that illness, game time decision, I was like, oh, Shai's going to go off tonight. Sure enough, 40 points on 12 of 19 shooting, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, only 1 turnover. His low turnover has been ridiculous, and he had 3 steals. By the way, Shai, I saw this stat out there too. Shai in the last 4 games combined has 6. The last 6 games combined has fewer turnovers than Luka Doncic had in his last game. That's just one of the things that people don't talk about enough with Shai and how important that is to his game.
Yeah, I mean, because his usage rate is high. He's taking possessions. He's got the ball in his hands so much, but there's nobody at his level who protects the ball and is smart with the ball as the way Shai is. The other interesting stat about this game is the 3-point shooting. Minnesota made 17. The Thunder made just 7, meaning Minnesota outscored Oklahoma City by 30 points from 3, and the Thunder were able to pull this one out. And that makes 4 wins in a row against teams that are in the playoff and the play-in, because they beat the Wolves, the Suns, the Warriors, and the Blazers back to back to back to back. So I think a really impressive week for the Thunder to go 4-0.
Yeah, absolutely. These were 4 really good wins. And, I know there's been some talk about the Thunder having a so-called soft schedule, but they've beaten everybody in the West now except for the Spurs and Nuggets. Those are the only 2 teams they haven't played from the West. And they've beaten everybody else. And so, the Nuggets also haven't played the Thunder. So now you're just looking at the Spurs. And maybe they'll get a chance to play the Spurs in the NBA Cup semifinals. The Spurs play the Lakers. The Thunder play the Suns. But yeah, this was a great week for the Thunder. That Wolves game, by the way, like you mentioned their 3-point shooting, 46%, 17 of 37. And the Thunder didn't have J-Dub. Like if the Wolves aren't going to beat the Thunder on a night where the Thunder without their second best player and the Wolves are shooting from 3 like that, how is this Wolves team just going to beat this Thunder team? You go back to the playoffs and how the Thunder handled them, and the Wolves have been to 2 straight Western Conference finals now, and the Thunder just look like they're in a different tier, and they are.
Yeah, the Thunder just really match up well against the Wolves, and I agree. I mean, but we've seen that the Thunder are in a class above everybody else. If your record through 22 games is 21-1, you're winning 96% of your games, you probably are better than every other team in the league.
Yeah, I mean, they are. I think coming into the season, some analysts you would hear like, hey, it's the Thunder, then there's a drop off and it's the Nuggets and Rockets, and then a drop off and maybe the Cavs and Knicks. But some analysts, maybe half of them, were like, okay, Thunder, Nuggets, Rockets are in a tier of their own. I think now, 22 games into the season, if you polled, 100, fans, analysts, observers, 99 would say the Thunder are in a tier of their own. Like they just look clearly better than the rest of the field, and that includes the Nuggets and the Rockets.
And, if we kind of advance to some other news around the league, I think there was an interesting quote that Tim McMahon of the ESPN had said about the Thunder not only being the best team in the league, but with the Clippers imploding, the increasing likelihood that the Thunder get a lottery pick and potentially a very high lottery pick, and that the league is worried about this. They are not happy that the best team in the NBA could be adding a high lottery pick in next year's draft.
Yeah, I mean, imagine being a fan of 29 other teams, and you see this Thunder team. They win it all last year after winning 68 games. They're 21-1 right now, and you know that they could add potentially 3 lottery picks. Like, how would you feel as a fan of another team right now? Like, especially if you're a fan of a team that feels like they're maybe a really good playoff team that normally would be a contender, but you see this young juggernaut, second youngest team ever to win a title, and you got these 3 players in Shai, Dub, and Chet locked in long term. You got all these great role players, and oh, by the way, a player, Nikola Topic, who was projected top 4 or 5 in his class, who is yet to play. Thomas Sorber, who went just outside of the lottery this past draft, yet to play. So you're adding Topic and Sorber at some point, and then you're potentially adding 3 lottery picks. And who knows how high that Clippers pick could be. So I get it if 29 other executives and GMs are panicked over what the Thunder are doing, because right now, they're kind of in a tier of their own as far as not only talent that's currently on the court, but looking at future assets and the future of this team. It's pretty special what Sam Presti has set up here in OKC.
Yeah, and I pinch myself on a regular basis, because to be a fan and to follow a team that is in this good of a position both now and in the future, it's you have to soak in the moment, because I don't know if a team could ever repeat the situation the Thunder are in, having won a championship already in the following season, off to one of the best starts in NBA history, and likely to just continue to add to that cupboard of talent year over year, while already having secured their top 3 players for years to come. It is insane.
Yeah. Thunder fans are having their cake and eating it too, because you get to look at the top of the standings and see the Thunder, by themselves. They've got a 5-game lead, 22 games into the season in the West for the number 1 seed. Like, that's just absurd. And then you have the bottom of the standings where you can go to Tankathon, your old friend Tankathon, and take that for a spin and see where 3 of those picks land. It's crazy. Like, it's usually one or the other. You're usually either looking at your team, somewhere in the standings and saying like, ooh, we're at the top of the standings, or hey, we can sneak into the playoffs, or hey, we're in play-in range, or you're one of the bottom teams and you're going to take a thon and seeing where your pick lands, and maybe you get a top 4 or 5 pick and you're excited. This is a incredibly unique and rare position that Thunder fans are in, where they get best of both worlds.
Well, I also wanted to add, continuing on the notable success the Thunder have had, they did get some accolades for a couple of Thunder personnel. Cason Wallace was named Western Conference Defensive Player of the Month. Mark Daigneault was named Western Conference Coach of the Month. But conspicuously, as you noted, Shai was not the Western Conference Player of the Month. Jokic was. And it makes me kind of wonder, again, you had said that Shai has gotten better versus last year. And I think he has noticeably gotten better, which is a incredible thing to say with how good he was and the fact that he won an MVP last year and led the team to a championship. But do you think Shai is flying under the radar? Because Jokic is getting all the attention as the best player in the league right now.
Yeah, I do think that somehow, some way, Shai is still underrated. I think a part of the problem is the consensus is that the Thunder are just stacked. The team is just stacked, and Shai is just a piece of that, which I think 2 things can be true. This Thunder team can be stacked, but the reason this Thunder team is so dominant and the reason this Thunder team is 21-1 is largely because of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And, the rest of the guys deserve all the credit. This team isn't this team without all this other talent and without Mark Daigneault. But SGA takes a really, really good roster and he takes them to a special place. Like, he takes them to 21-1. He takes them to 68 wins. The fact that these games lately have been tight and close and gone to clutch time, and when Shai comes in, he's just going to will them to a win. Like, his clutch time performances, I think, have gone underrated. I think the fact that he sits so many fourth quarters has hurt his overall numbers. Obviously, just like, you can't just look at raw numbers. You have to look at the context within the games. Like, for instance, the Nuggets Thunder playoff series last year. Well, Jokic, if you just look at the raw numbers, he had more, rebounds. He averaged like a triple-double in that series, right? Okay, so raw numbers, it's Jokic. But if you watch that series, Shai outperformed Jokic. Clearly, Shai was the best player in that series. I'm not saying Shai is the best player overall. That's a different conversation. But he was the best player in that series. So you can't just look at raw numbers. And within the context of this team and these games, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has been the best player this season. There's a reason why they're 21-1, despite the fact that J-Dub has missed all but 3 games. Chet has missed a handful of games. Caruso, Dort, go down the list. Isaiah Hartenstein. These are key players. These are like your 2nd through 10th best players have all missed time, besides AJ Mitchell. The one constant has been Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and winning. I don't think that's a coincidence.
Yeah, I guess on this show we are simping for Shai, but he deserves it. And last night and these last 4 games are just a testament of how good he is, and that, if he's going to fly under the radar, he's going to fly under the radar, but he's going to continue to deliver for the Thunder and keep the team as the best in the NBA. But you mentioned the supporting cast, and so that's a good segue to our next segment. The Thunder are getting healthier, and of course, Dort and Caruso were out last night in the front court, or the back court. But at the wing position, the Thunder are so loaded. They have Jalen Williams back now. They have Dub back. They have Lou Dort. They have Cason Wallace. They have AJ Mitchell. They have Aaron Wiggins. They have Isaiah Joe. This team is stacked at the wing. Topic may come back at some point this season. How do the Thunder manage that rotation? And who do you think are going to reliably get minutes with the stockpile of talent that the Thunder have?
Yeah, when this team is fully healthy, obviously, like we just said, this team is stacked, incredibly deep and talented. Obviously, every night, Shai, Dub, Chet, 35 plus minutes or so. I think that next tier, which would be Dort, Hartenstein, Caruso, obviously big minutes every night. I think you can now say that AJ and Cason as well, big minutes every night. So to me, there's 8 players, those that I just listed, every single night are going to get big minutes. Now, I think that Isaiah Joe and Aaron Wiggins are next up. So that makes 10. I think those guys are in the nightly rotation, and maybe their minutes vary from game to game when the team is fully healthy, but I think they're in the nightly rotation. And then after that, I think Jay will still get minutes probably most nights, just with, Thomas Sorber being out and, him being a big and him being very reliable. I think that Kenrich Williams, his minutes may be sporadic, but since he's been back, he's played every night and he's played well, as he tends to do. So yeah, this team, am I missing anybody? You got Oos, you got Sorber, you got Topic, then you got the two-way guys. So yeah, I think that's the rotation, for the most part. I think that there are 8, you can count on big minutes every night. I think Joe and Wiggins pretty much every night will get minutes, and then Kenrich will be in there too, and Jay will.
Yeah, and I think that's what Mark Dagnall does, is he does make sure that everybody gets some rotation minutes, or at least quite a few players get rotation minutes. And we could definitely see the Thunder play 12 guys on a regular basis, night in and night out, especially when they're fully healthy. But the minutes distribution, I think, will be interesting to see, because AJ has earned pretty big minutes, and he's been getting big minutes night in and night out. Even when Wiggins came back and J-Dub came back, Mitchell was still getting pretty big rotation minutes. But yeah, I do kind of wonder, like in some games, who are going to be the guys who typically get 25 plus a night, and who are the guys who are going to fluctuate down. And some nights they might get 20 plus, and some nights they might only get 5 or 10. And, I wonder if like Wiggins and Joe, are kind of in that categories. Maybe their minutes might fluctuate depending upon matchups.
Yeah, I think their minutes will fluctuate depending on matchups. I think that they're 9th and 10th in the rotation most nights. The 8 guys before them are going to get big minutes every night. I do expect Joe and Wiggins to pretty much be in the nightly rotation. I just can't say for sure how many minutes they'll get every night. Like every guy in the 8, spots before them, I think gets big minutes every night. But Joe and Wiggins, some nights might get, 6 minutes. Some nights they might get 22 minutes, just depending on how they're playing, depending on how the game is going, depending on matchup and those type of things.
Well, for our last segment, before we look ahead to the next week's games, a wild quote was, I think, going viral on Thunder social media. So Rich Paul had this explanation as to why Oklahoma City has its home court advantage. It's not because of the crowd. It's not because of the talent in Oklahoma City necessarily. He says that teams aren't energized in Oklahoma City because they're already thinking about LA or the next stop on their road trip. What was your reaction to that Rich Paul quote?
Oh, my reaction was that it immediately cuts in line and shoots all the way up to the Mount Rushmore of bad takes about this Thunder team. Like up there with I think both the Morris twins probably are on the Mount Rushmore, or at least Marcus is. That one dude who was filling in for Colin Cowherd, I can't remember what his name was, but I remember there was like a week where he was filling in. It was just like bad Thunder take after bad Thunder take. There has been a lot of bad Thunder takes, especially over the past couple years, as we've seen this team, rise up to contender status, to champions. to defending champions. The bad takes have been everywhere, but somehow Rich Paul may have the worst take of them all. Like, I don't even know where to start with it. It's such a bad take. Like, how does anybody look past the champs, or at the time, the number one seed, a team that was breaking records, a team that, had a guy that was favored for MVP, that won MVP. Like, you're not looking past this team, and you're definitely not like, oh, I'm not playing with enough juice because we're in Oklahoma City. I'm looking forward to LA. Look, not every team on the schedule is LA, Miami, New York. I mean, there is a ton of small markets. Teams aren't looking past other teams because of the city that they're in. Plus, when you're playing in Oklahoma City, when you talk about juice, you're playing against like the best home crowd environment in the NBA. If that doesn't get you juiced, if going up against the champs doesn't get you juiced, if going up against Shai, Dub, and Chet doesn't get you juiced, I don't even know what to say. It's just an absurd take. Plus, by the way, half of the Thunder's wins come on the road. So what's the excuse for the Thunder blowing out everybody on the road? Like what's that? Like last night in Golden State, was Golden State looking past, the Bay and looking forward to going down the road to LA? It's just such an absurd statement. I don't know. It just silly.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure I fully understand it, because either he's saying that the Thunder opponents aren't juiced to play the reigning champions or one of the most talented up-and-coming teams in the league with, as you noted, Shai, Chet, J-Dub. If that's the take, that is a bizarre, nonsensical take. Teams want to win every game on their schedule, and the fact that they are in Oklahoma City playing Shai, Dub, and Chet, if that's not enough to get you going, nothing will. Or was that saying, were they saying, okay, Oklahoma City itself is such a terrible city to visit. The opposing teams are so excited to leave, they don't mentally prepare themselves to go play a basketball game? I mean, it's just bad on both sides. I'm not even sure what the intent was.
Yeah, either way, either meaning is an all-time terrible take. And look, ultimately, if a team, like, first of all, this statement is just untrue. Like, it is, like, if you ask the other 29 teams in the NBA, I think they'll all say, yeah, no, that's just silly. That's absurd. That's not true. But if it were true, let's pretend in some alternate timeline what he said was actually true. Well, then that's a problem with every other team. I mean, like, I don't know what to tell you. If you can't get up to play the champs and play the MVP, I mean, that's on you.
Well, we'll put that Rich Paul quote on the Mount Rushmore of bad Oklahoma City takes, right up there with the Shannon Sharp, Lakers in 5
yeah,
meme
that's
that
a good
went around.
I gotta say, like, obviously that was a terrible take, and we all know it was a terrible take, but he was so funny with it. Like, I can't, and he's such a Lakers homer, like, and like proudly so. That one didn't bother me too much because I thought it was funny. We all knew that it was just absurd anyways. But he probably deserves a spot because it's probably the most famous bad take and the funniest.
Yeah, and well, it did make a very good meme. So that's actually a good bad take because of the memes that it generated. This one's just a bad take because it's just stupid. Let's just be clear. It's stupid.
Yes.
So, and speaking of this sleepy town and this team that nobody gets excited to play, the Thunder have quite a run on national TV because they play the Mavs this Friday on Prime Video. They have their NBA Cup quarterfinal against the Suns next Wednesday on Prime Video. They're going to have the next Clippers game on NBA TV, another Prime Video matchup against the Timberwolves next Friday, and then the following game will be a Peacock national TV game against the Grizzlies. And then the second night of a back-to-back against the Spurs is an ABC Christmas Day national broadcast. So I don't know. I think people must like watching this Thunder team if they're getting all this national attention.
Yeah, somebody needs to tell Rich Paul, apparently. I like seeing this, national TV glow up for the champs. This is what you want to see happen for this team. They deserve all the kudos that they're getting. Like, they are doing historic things, and more people need to see them doing these historic things. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had one of the greatest individual seasons in NBA history last year. Not enough people saw it. And now, somehow, he's having an even better season this year, and more people will see it. And I'm excited for that. I'm excited for the team. They deserve it. They've been incredible. They win a championship, and there's always this talk of champs, having a hard time the next season because of a championship hangover, or because they have the target on the back. They get, the opponent's best shot every single night. This team was young. How would they handle the extra notoriety and success and all the eyes watching them? And the response so far is 21-1, an even better, more historic net rating. Despite all these injuries, no matter who plays any single given night, it's plug and play. They play outstanding, and the effort, energy, defense, all those things that the Thunder are known for, all those things are still there. There's no hangover. It's been very, very impressive to watch. And so I'm glad to see that, more and more eyes are going to be on this team.
Well, the Thunder have a lighter schedule, no back-to-backs. They've got 2 games this coming week before the NBA Cup takes off. Anything interesting that you see about the matchup against the Mavs, who have struggled, and then a rematch against the Jazz?
The Mavs are interesting because Anthony Davis is back. They're starting to get a little bit healthier. Ryan Nembhard, undrafted rookie. He is Andrew Nembhard, who Thunder fans know him. His younger brother, he's been playing really well. He's been, the Mavs have been really hurting for point guard play, or just guard play. D'Angelo Russell obviously hasn't been, as good as hoped for the Mavs. Kyrie Irving is still out, so Nembhard's been really good. Anthony Davis is back. I think they're getting healthier as far as like Gafford is back. PJ Washington has kind of been in and out of the lineup, but don't have to say much about MJ Washington to Thunder fans. But with Isaiah Hartenstein being out right now, and the Mavs getting some of their size back, especially Anthony Davis, I'm not saying, I think that the Mavs are going to beat the Thunder. I don't think that. I think the Thunder will take care of business on Friday night. They haven't lost a home game all season. They've been playing so well at home. But I do think that the Mavs have been playing better lately, much better. They had a really good win over the Nuggets. So I think that's actually a good thing overall for the Thunder, because going back to that Clippers pick, you want, if you're a Thunder fan, for a couple of the teams at the bottom of the West to actually want to win, to get a play-in spot. The Grizzlies have been playing better lately. So, hopefully they keep winning and stay above the Clippers. And the Mavs, I think, and the Blazers are 2 other teams that you can look at and be like, if they get a little success, they get a few wins, maybe they'll shoot for the play-in and not, pivot to a tank. So I think overall that's encouraging. I think the Thunder will take care of business. And then as far as the Jazz go, they've been much more competitive than expected this year, which again is a good thing for the Thunder, because they have their pick top 8 protected. And that is much more interesting right now than it looked coming into the season, where it looked very, very unlikely to convey to the Thunder. And right now I'd still say it's unlikely, but it is definitely possible now. I think the Thunder take care of business in both these games. Honestly, I think that they go into the NBA Cup play, the quarterfinals, at 23-1, and have a chance to tie the Golden State Warriors in 2016, who started off 24-1. They started off 24-0, and then they lost their 25th game. If the Thunder win against the Mavs, the Jazz, and the Suns, they can match that Golden State Warriors start.
Yeah, and as I'm sure everybody remembers, because they're such Warriors fans here listening to the podcast, the Warriors started that season 24-1, as you noted. They ended up going to 29-1 before they suffered their second loss. So Thunder still have some work to do to match that kind of start or to beat it. But if they win Friday, they will be in sole ownership of the second best start in NBA history.
Yeah. Yeah. And, the more and more time that goes by, the more and more wins that this Thunder team stack up, we're seeing more and more comparisons to that, 2010s Warriors team and to the 90s Bulls. And I'm not saying that this Thunder team is going to become a dynasty. You know, they've got one championship. They've got to win more, obviously, to be in those conversations. But based on, you know, last year's regular season and playoffs and championship run and a quarter of the way through this season, like you just keep seeing these comparisons. When you look at the historic numbers, it keeps going back to that Warriors team and the 90s Bulls, and it's just been very, very impressive.
Absolutely. And that is a great place to end the show today. Thanks for listening to the Daily Thunder podcast. I'm John Napier, host of the podcast, and he's Brandon Rahbar, Daily Thunder beat writer. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to subscribe to the Daily Thunder podcast on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss any future episodes. And if you like what you hear, do us a favor and leave us a rating and review wherever you get your podcast. And we'll be back in your feed soon.